Dema and Genya bring you Shoot the Ones, a weekly MMA podcast. Hi, I'm Genya.
And I am Dema. In this episode 7 of our podcast, we will review UFC Fight Night 106, Belfort vs. Gastelum, as well as ACB 54 Supersonic, Khalidov vs. Burnett. We are going to preview UFC Fight Night 107, Manuwa vs. Anderson, as well as talk news, predictions, and a lot more.
Excellent week of fights, Demo. But before we get started, I just want to thank the fans. We have some real loyal listeners that listen to our whole shows, give us feedback. Thank you guys. You guys are the reason we do this.
We appreciate all your support. Always can catch us SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and MMApodcast.com.
So, Demo, we're going to start with the news, or we're going to start talking about ACB 54 Supersonic?
Dude, let's do some news and fight announcements. We got pretty good ones listed here.
This is pretty cool, man. We're looking at each other. I like this new setup, man.
Yeah, by the way, we got a new microphone, so move some things around the studio. This is looking like a more professional setup, wouldn't you say?
Got a real podcast going. 2 microphones finally, and real nice here in the studio.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, first thing I have written down, Misha Serkinov is back with the UFC, and he has a fight coming up.
Pretty cool news to see Misha back in the UFC, huh, Dima? Who's he fighting?
Volkan Ozdemir.
Oh, this is the cousin.
The cousin.
He just recently beat OSP in a real close fight. I think I'm excited to see Misha. I think he matches up really well with this guy. But Cousin seems like a well-rounded MMA fighter, and he's going to be tough to deal with. But I think with Serkinov's strength and especially his jiu-jitsu acumen, I think he's going to be able to get it done versus Volkan here. How do you see this fight playing out?
Volkan had a pretty impressive showing against OSP, who is one of the top light heavyweight guys. Here, Misha Serkinov, a prospect, a Russian native hailing from Canada. There is a lot of buzz around this fight, and fighter, and I'm excited that he was able to negotiate things and work things out with UFC, make a comeback. So as far as this fight, let's see. I would probably tip my hat off to Misha Serkinov. I am also biased here because he's Russian. But Volkan had a very impressive showing against OSP, and he seems like a guy who can stifle a lot of people, and
is Volkan
give him difficulties.
Is Volkan Serbian?
I think so. I don't know who I would go with. This one is close, to be honest, if I wasn't so biased.
Dima, did you think Misha's last fight, did you think it was versus Nikita Krylov, where he got it was a submission victory? Do you think that was a little bit of a loser leaves town match? Did you notice Nikita's gone now and Misha was on the fence there, or do you think those were separate issues that he was going to get re-signed when they came to a good deal regardless?
I don't know. I feel like Nikita might have been... was it his last fight? Was he trying to renegotiate, or did they just cut him outright?
I don't want to speculate, but I believe he was in the same position as Serkinov. I think they were both free agents after that fight.
Gotcha.
And WIMG is real picky about who they're going to do a deal with nowadays. So they're not just going to cut a deal with anybody, and they're trying to get that money back that they spent.
Well, here's the thing. I think they had kind of similar fighters, and both were undefeated at the time, or both had, pretty ridiculous record as far as I'm concerned. So Nikita kind of lost a little stock in that loss against Misha. So going forward with negotiations, clearly that had something to do with it, and I think both of them were kind of hard bargainers.
Yeah, I think that fight. I don't think I kind of agree with you that it did have a lot in the bargaining aspect of it. The winner of that fight was going to have a lot more leverage coming in and asking for more money. Because besides being Russians and both kind of fan favorites by Russians, I I don't know, man. Nikita's got a style that's also fan friendly. I think Misha, the fans don't really like submissions as much. I personally like fighters like Misha that can just tear you down and throw you in a submission and have a little strikes to add to that. But I don't know. It's still a little bit sad to see Nikita go. I thought he was a good fighter, and Misha Serkinov is a tough fight for anybody.
Yeah, man, they're both exciting fighters. I hope sometime down the road Nikita is able to make his way back after getting a couple of wins in different promotions. Fair enough. Do you want to go into the next, or do you have anything to add to this?
Didn't UFC 211, I believe we had 3 fight announcements on UFC 211, which is in Dallas. Let's go over those a little bit before we get into the ACB 54 Supersonic card.
Yeah, a couple of high-profile fights announced, kind of filling out the main card for 211, which is starting to look pretty stacked.
Yeah, the main event on that is Stipe versus Dos Santos rematch. So that's their second fight.
But that was announced some time ago already. So the 3 fights that were announced here will start with David Branch versus Krzysztof Jotko.
Wow, what a good first fight for Dave Branch in the UFC. He was two weight division champ over there at World Series of Fighting. Had some falling out there, but he's a newcomer to the UFC, Dema. But he's surely not a newcomer to MMA. This guy's been around for a while.
He's a seasoned veteran from the sound of it. What can you tell me about Krzysztof Jotko?
Jotko is something like 6-1 in the UFC, and he's beaten a lot of good fighters. I don't remember who his one loss was to, but every fight he's had, he's looked better and better. He's a good prospect from Poland, and he's looking like one of the better Polish fighters out on the MMA circuit right now. But Dave Branch is going to be a handful, man. This guy's longtime Cesar Gracie. He's, without looking at his record, I would estimate he's got 30-some fights. He had a couple stints in the UFC. If you remember him, he fought Gerald Harris, and he was one of the slam TKOs.
Gerald Harris slammed him?
Yeah, he was slammed by Gerald Harris. That was one of Gerald's slam. Gerald got a recent slam TKO, another one, but that was like one of his earlier day ones.
I do remember that, yeah.
And he's actually been on a real nice streak, but to be fair, I don't think he's beaten anybody over there at Strikeforce quite as good as Jotko, but he has been fighting UFC level guys being the champion over there.
Genya, do you think this fight makes main event, or is it going to be one of those that kind of headlines one of the preliminaries?
You're talking about Dave Branch versus Jotko. I think this is going to main event because Dave Branch, he's a guy that you can sell people because he's got it all. He's got the striking, he's got the jiu-jitsu, and Jotko, he's a real athletic guy, man. He's going to be a problem. So I think this is a real good matchup. I would favor Branch a little bit, but Jotko is a young guy that moves around in the cage real well, and he's a good fighter. He's 6-1, and he's beaten some good names.
So to clarify, this is going to main event the prelims, or it's going to be on a main event card?
Oh,
main card.
I thought I answered that. I think it's going to be on the main card.
Okay, gotcha.
Sir.
All right, next fight announced is Henry Cejudo versus Sergio Pettis, younger brother of Anthony Pettis, of course, has been making moves in his division, and I think he's got a really tough matchup in Henry Cejudo.
Yes, Cejudo coming off of a loss to Benavidez, correct?
Yes, in what was a pretty close fight.
Very close. Could have gone either way. And Pettis beat Moraga, I believe, in a pretty impressive victory.
Yeah, it was a decision, but he kind of took that fight from him.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But Cejudo is a big step up from Moraga, I feel. This is going to be a tough test for Sergio. And we'll see what happens, but I really like Henry's game, man. Henry's a great wrestler. He comes to fight, and he's gonna be a real tough out for anybody in that division. Even though Mighty Mouse kind of embarrassed him in there, but Sergio Pettis is also a good prospect to look forward to.
Oh man, I'm really excited about this fight. Mainly stylistically, you have Henry Cejudo, who is a short, stocky guy, excellent grappler, and in Sergio Pettis, you have a striking prodigy almost. You know, a guy that's walking out of a shadow of his brother, that's really been making moves on his own. Resembles him slightly in the style. Really flashy striker, a more lankier opponent. Stylistically, I mean, this breaks down awesome. Really tough matchup for him. It's going to be an awesome test, and because Henry Cejudo brings it, he's a high caliber fighter in that weight division. So Sergio Pettis, you know, has experience, has the hours in the gym. So that's why I'm excited about this fight.
Very good points, Dima. Henry Cejudo is not just any wrestler in there.
Olympic.
Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me.
He's an Olympic wrestler, and he's gotten didn't he win the silver medal?
I don't remember off the top of my
Actually,
head.
I think he might even have a gold, to be honest. He does have a gold, because I remember they did the lead up to one of the fights.
Yeah.
And they were following. It was when he fought Mighty Mouse. They were doing the lead up to the fights,
Mm-hmm.
and he showed his gold medal. But yeah, man, he was one of the best wrestlers of his time when he was doing it. So it's gonna be interesting. But Pettis, man, yeah, you were right also about that. Every fight you see a good improvement in him. Every fight, you know, he's getting better takedown defense, and his takedown defense is really gonna be tested in this one.
For sure. Elite level striker, elite level grappler. This fight is going to be awesome.
Dima, how about the next one, man? I'm really excited about this. Frank on the same card, Frankie Edgar versus Yair Rodriguez. Wow.
This fight is going to be fireworks, man. I mean, you got a young up-and-comer in Yair Rodriguez who's just dethroning guys left and right. You know, putting the BJ fight aside a little bit, he was kind of sacrificed there. Frankie Edgar is a champion in the division over and over, has, you know, proven himself, and is always a tough fight for anybody.
Yeah, I really like this, man. Yeah, this is where we get to see if Yair is really for real. Frankie, we know, is for real. Yair beat up a BJ Penn who, let's be honest, is very beatable. But Frankie is no walk in the park, and Frankie is gonna make it a tough test. And I think this Yair kid's gonna give him a tough fight, man. And if he can get past Frankie, he's the real deal.
Yeah, I agree with you. This fight is going to be classic in the sense you have a veteran, a guy that's been in there for forever, fought several divisions, and has been a champion as well. And you have a hungry up and comer with lots of potential. So again, I think this fight is going to co-main event.
It should.
It should. It's you know, it's a great one.
I agree.
So good job, matchmakers. UFC 211 from Dallas is looking pretty exciting, stacked. Hopefully, knocking on wood, nothing falls out. Things tend to happen. Hopefully, this stays intact and everything is everything.
Yeah, some fun fights to look forward to.
Hell yeah. We got two cards that we're going to review, starting with ACB 54. ACB stands for Absolute Championship Berkut. They had an event dubbed Supersonic, which was headlined by Khalidov versus Burnett. Do you have the first names?
Yeah, Mamed Khalidov versus Luke Barnett.
There you go.
Barnett.
So you watched the card, right?
Oh yeah, man, it was really cool, man. This was I'm gonna be honest with my Shoot the Ones listeners. This is not their first show. This is their 54th show, I guess by card number, and this was the first one I saw, Dema. And it was cool, man. It was kind of like the Invicta, you know how Invicta, Dema, one fight ends and they just move on to the next.
So the pacing of it was, you know, just fight after fight, not a lot of slack in between.
Exactly. There was no like lead up videos or anything. It'd just be a fight. Like it could be a crazy knockout. They'll like quickly talk to the person, get him out the ring, and then that guy will be out there. Next, we have Dema.
So good pacing to it.
It was excellent. And then man, they had because they kind of what's the word collaborated with M1 Global. They collaborate with M1 Global, so that means they share money with M1 Global, so they're able to put on these big cards, man. Even some fights that didn't make the main card.
I have a question, real
really
quick.
awesome. Yeah.
Is the M1 partnership going to be like a permanent thing, or is this a one-time deal?
I believe it's a permanent thing. From my understanding, Dima, the Berkut was a Chechnyan promotion.
Yeah.
They were doing really good. They were producing all these guys. Some were moving to UFC, and I think they were tied in a little bit with Khabib. But I forget the guy that owns it. His name is like Aziz, something like that. Anyways, he's got deep pockets too. But M1 Global just realized, we're kind of on the downswing. This promotion's on the huge upswing. This is my opinion of it.
So they kind of did a merger.
They did a merger, and it's been real successful because they're able to produce 8 good fights on a card. I mean, they had, I believe Bubba Jenkins was the first fight on there where he got beat by the Hulk Ali Bagov. And even on the undercard, man, Max Nunez got knocked out in 2 minutes 50 seconds. It was a fun card, man. They had like big time names, and I'm not even getting into the top 3, top 4 fights on here.
Yeah, I think to note, they were able to make a lot of international signings in the recent month or two.
Yeah, and Khalidov is probably the number 1 prospect outside of the UFC. Has been for a couple of years.
And he looked fantastic this fight. Do you want to go top to bottom?
You can talk about that one first. I mean, it was 21 seconds. Let's go top to bottom. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The fight was very short. I think Khalidov threw one jab, and then he initiated a combination, which was just the end of things for Luke Burnett.
You're right. And the cool thing about it was the first real combo he threw. He connected literally. It seemed like he had no wasted punches. Like he threw like 6 mean punches. He threw
one jab as kind of a measuring stick, and then just the next time he connected was with some serious intent.
And I mean, Luke Barnett's probably like one of the tougher guys he's fought in years, if we're being honest. And he's had some trouble with some tricky guys in the past, so they thought maybe his height would give him issues, but no, man. He's still on top of his game, and I think he's going to be a problem for even some of the top 10 in the UFC.
Yeah, man. Mamed Khalidov looked impressive as hell this fight.
Takes him to 33-4-2 record overall.
Whew.
The co-main event was also pretty cool. They had a rematch of Mike Wilkinson and Brendan Loughnane. I probably butchered it. Sorry, Brendan. But Mike Wilkinson actually took that fight in the UFC. And right after that fight, Brendan got cut from the UFC. So it still kind of scarred him a little bit. And, man, he took it personal. He came out. He said he wanted to, the outcome to be completely different. And he went for it, man. Knocked him out. And a little bit over 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 30 seconds with a knee. And, man, he looked great fighting Mike Wilkinson. He looks like he might be seeing another ticket into UFC if he keeps fighting like this a couple more times.
Yeah, impressive showing for sure.
The next 2 fights weren't quite as interesting. Actually, no. One of them was. Aslanbek Sadov. These names are tough, Dima.
It's all right, man. International card.
He looked really good in beating Jan Pascu. Pascu fought well, too. It was a well match. And before that, there was the upset of the night. This guy came in on 2 days' notice, made weight, Ariel Pertia, and beat Saul Rogers, who, if you remember, was the guy, he was the favorite to win the Ultimate Fighter. He got to the finals versus Ryan Hall, and he couldn't make it because his visa, he had committed a crime in the past, and they denied his visa. And he lied about it to get onto the Ultimate Fighter.
Okay.
So it really pissed Dana, and Dana was like, no more. But he was a big favorite. I mean, after he got kicked off of Tough, he'd won a couple fights, and he was fighting a guy that was like 10-8, 2 days notice. It looked like a cakewalk. Like if they had betting lines on it, he would have probably been like a 10 or 12
I didn't know that.
point favorite. Point. He would have been like a minus 1,200, something like that.
Interesting insights from Genya.
And two fights on the prelims of it that were pretty cool. Batraz Agnav in his third fight, he dominated Max Nunez. Man, this guy looks like the Spartans. Do you remember that movie? The Spartans, the 300.
Leonidas.
Yeah, he looks like the 300 guys. And man, he knocked out Max with a punch. Like he had him on back control, right, where he had Max kind of leaned over. He punched on the opposite side of the guard and somehow created enough power to knock him out. I mean, he must be a really powerful guy to generate that much power. Frank Mir was yelling. He's like, I've never seen that before. He generated so much power in such a short range,
In case you can't tell, I did not watch these fights. I only caught some of the replays and the finishes. So I obviously don't have as much to add to this as Genya does.
Well, it did start at 2, and I'm a bit of a dork, so if there's MMA on, I'm watching it.
Man, I rely on you for this. Thank you, brother.
And the other cool one they had a guy that was 39. He came in, he was fighting Cheesecake Danny Mitchell. They both have schools in Thailand, both veteran fighters, and man, Andy looks strong, knocking him out in just 35 seconds. But overall, man, I had a good experience with ACB 54 Supersonic. I'd watch another.
I would watch the next one. I'm just looking down the results and going down the fight card, and it looks like it was action packed.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is it just keeps rolling. There's no like BS in between. It's kind of like our podcast. We don't have commercials yet, no advertising, so we just roll through. That's the one negative to listen to like some of the bigger podcasts. You got to listen to all the ads and all that.
Yeah, man, pretty good showing from ACB. Next, we have UFC Fight Night 106, Belfort versus Gastelum. This was a Brazilian card. Came from city of Fortaleza, I believe. And this one was fireworks, man. This card lived up to the expectations. It didn't have as many big names, but those matchups, man, they lived up to the expectations.
I agree, man. Brazil always seems to have fun cards, and a lot of skilled guys are on them. But this is the one I really enjoyed.
Yeah, man, the crowd is something else every time.
Weren't they doing the you're gonna die to Kevin Lee before at the weigh-ins, and he gave him the finger?
Oh, they're always yelling and chanting things, but always respectful in the end, despite sometimes being completely silent if things don't go in the Brazilians' favor tonight. But yeah, man, it's definitely an interesting dynamic in Brazil. They're very nationalistic. They're very passionate. They yell and chant crazy shit during the fights. Yeah, Brazilian cards definitely add an exciting flavor.
To be fair, Dema, you gotta kind of give credit where credit's due. They did sing "Happy Birthday" to an American who just beat a Brazilian legend.
Did they? I thought he kind of sang it to himself.
No, he started singing it for his mom, and they sang it with him for the mom because he's a real likable guy. He's real humble. He's not like fake humble like John Jones was when he was starting, and he's kind of defeated all odds.
Well, I unfortunately did not catch the post-fight interviews because I caught some of these fights as a replay. So I did miss out on that, but I did get to hear about this on like Reddit MMA and some of the other news sources. But yeah, man, that was cool.
Pretty cool. Did you watch the first fight, the Paulo Henrique Costa versus Gareth McLennan?
No, I missed this one, and I caught a replay. I tuned in. This fight was ending, so I caught just the very, very end of it.
Yeah, I actually was able to catch all the fights. The only one I missed the first round of Ronnie Yaya versus Soto, which I heard was pretty good. I heard Yaya won it.
Yeah, it was a back and forth fight.
But I did watch Paulo Henrique Costa, and he did exactly what I expected him to do. I mean, he came in, he had a lot of hype around him. I think most of his wins are by some sort of finish. Yep, he's got 9 wins, 8 KOs, and 1 submission. So he's a finisher, and actually all of them in the first round. And this was no different, man. He beat Gareth McClellan. What's McClellan's nickname? Soldier Boy. He beat the Soldier Boy, Gareth McClellan. Soldier Boy up in it. Watch me get knocked out in 1 minute 17 seconds.
Oh, Genya with the freestyles. Fresh, dog.
But,
yeah, man, and it won him the performance of the night. Everybody was kind of sleeping on Paulo Henrique, and he came out and kind of pulled the upset here.
Well, I don't know about sleeping. He was a 3-1 favorite.
Oh, he was a favorite?
He was a big time favorite. Yeah.
Oh, I guess he was a lesser known fighter.
Yeah, but he looks like an impressive finisher. Yeah, and I like he moves really fast for that division. He looks kind of like Lyoto Machida quickness. So it's gonna be impressive. I like to see him get a step up from Soldier Boy up in it. But good fight for him, man. He couldn't ask for better in a UFC debut.
Yeah, man. Definitely exciting to see where he goes from here. Next fight in featherweight division, Jeremy Kennedy defeats Ronnie Jason, unanimous decision.
I think it was a closer fight than the judges called for. Ronnie Jason actually, if they would have judged this like they judged Woodley versus Thompson, I think Ronnie Jason would have won because he rocked him twice. He hurt him with a knee, but Kennedy controlled positions, which I didn't think they were scoring as much, and he did have a real impressive third round. I think he ended the fight a lot stronger than he started it.
I don't remember this fight much other than both guys had their moments. It was a back and forth fight.
Yeah, Ronnie Jason's never in a boring fight, man. Like win or lose, he's in exciting fights, man. He caught him with 2 knees.
Yeah,
really
throws caution to the wind. Fights in the Brazilian Vanderlei fashion that we all love from the Pride days.
Fuck yeah. Next fight, man. Let's talk about this one, Dema, man. Prazaris, the tractor, man. He came, ran over veteran Josh Berkman. He looked super impressive.
Yeah, man. What a start! What a start for preliminary card on Fox Sports 1. We have Prazaris and Josh Berkman. So Prazaris just comes out and just textbook puts him on the floor, works his way from side control into north and south, and just secures the choke from there.
Yeah, man, it was a north-south choke, and you're right, Dema. He kind of just imposed his will, man. He used his body size and strength, hurt Josh Berkman right away, didn't let him off the hook. He kind of did throw a little bit of caution to the wind. If Berkman somehow survived that, Tractor would have had a hard time with gas later on in the fight, but I think he knew he had the ability to finish him, and it showed.
Yeah, dude, that was a dope finish. We haven't seen a north-south choke in a while. That's that kind of Jeff Monson patented from back in the day. Good to see. Moving right along in bantamweight division, Joe Soto defeats Ronnie Yaya in unanimous decision in what was a pretty back-and-forth fight.
Yeah, I personally thought it was fight of the night. It didn't get any awards. Weird, I'm saying a Ronnie Yaya fight is the fight of the night. I never thought I would say that, but it was a cool fight, man. A lot of blood all over the place. The one thing I did want to ask you about, Dema, there was a headbutt in the second round, and it kind of changed things for both fighters. For Joe Soto, his head was split open and blood was going everywhere. He had an insane amount of blood. But for Ronnie Yaya, he hit him a little bit in the temple, and it kind of rocked him, and he never seemed like the same fighter after that.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of interesting things. Now that I remember the headbutt, it did cause a lot of damage there. I was very concerned about the cut. There was a lot of blood. It was, fortunately for Soto, it was more to the side, and it was not going so much in his eye. But that's unfortunate, kind of a foul situation where the headbutt causes the cut. But to his credit, Joe Soto kind of comes back in the later, rounds, and is able to hang in there despite the damage. Has Ronnie Yaya hurt on several occasions throughout the fight. This was back and forth fight. Now there was not a fight of night awarded, but this is a pretty good contender here.
Yeah, man. I agree. And if we're putting the headbutt aside, it was a really good performance for Soto. He he had a good game plan and he stuck to it. And what I think that game plan was is to drag him into the deep waters. And what I was really impressed with Soto was he was so willing to get in there and exchange jujitsu with Yaya, and especially when he had Yaya tired, he was dominating him on the ground and even looked dangerous, threatening some submissions.
Yeah, man, he showed really good top control and perseverance.
Real veteran savvy. Good to see him kind of get a streak going in the UFC after that tough fight with T.J. Dillashaw that went 5 rounds, and I think he got knocked out like with a couple seconds left in that fight.
Yeah,
That was a heck of a fight, but that's a tough first fight in the UFC, fighting for the belt on replacement notice. So nice to see him get a streak going.
for sure.
Next
Next.
we had a sorry.
You go ahead.
Next we had an odd fight. We had two jiu-jitsu players, man. So you're like, yes, this is gonna be awesome, man. Both champions in jiu-jitsu. Davey Ramos versus Sergio Moraes. If I'm not mistaken, there was not one ground exchange, not one jiu-jitsu exchange in the entire fight. Not even
No,
a
man.
standing submission threat.
Both guys just made it a complete kickboxing match.
Yeah, which was real weird to me. And Davey Ramos does not look like a guy ready to be in the 170 weight class. He was so small. I think he's a natural 155er is what they were talking about. And if he's gonna be in there throwing punches and not using his great jiu-jitsu, man, he can't be up there at that weight class at middleweight, man. His arms were too short. He had a real hard time getting in there, and the crowd was booing for some of it. But I thought it was an okay fight. It seemed like Davey Ramos was in the wrong weight division, and he paid for it with 27s across the board.
Yeah, a bit of an unexpected outcome. As far as grappling exchanges, I mean, there was barely any. I think there might have been a takedown attempt or a clinch attempt, which was stifled pretty quickly, and that was about it, man. Again, kickboxing match, a bit of a lackluster performance. I don't want to talk shit, but the crowd got pretty anxious. But yeah, other than that, yeah, not too much jujitsu. It was pretty much mostly striking.
And Dima, how about Kevin Lee, man, with another win?
Kevin Lee defeats Francisco Trinaldo. Second round, gets it done via rear naked choke.
Then Trinaldo was throwing some good punches in the first round. He had a little bit of success also, but Kevin Lee, man, that's 3 wins in a row now. He beat Jake Matthews, a guy that I see as a legit prospect. A really good fighter. He beat Murafayev, Mursat, who's also really good, man. I think he's being prospects that like people don't know their names as much, but these are good fighters. And then he took it another step further and beat a guy on a 7 fight win streak, Francisco Trinaldo, and made it look nice, man. He's finished all these guys.
Yeah, man, I am impressed by Kevin. He goes in there and he's got good fight IQ to him. He's in this fight specifically. I want to talk about. He waited. He paced himself very well. He persevered Trinaldo's offense during the first round and kind of let Trinaldo slow down. Second round comes out, slow down Trinaldo. Kevin Lee puts the pace on him. And this is where he's able to, I think they go in a scramble. And from there, Kevin Lee just attacks the back and gets it. Goes for rear naked choke. He sinks it in really quickly.
Do you think he fights like that, Demon, like you were describing? Do you think he fights like that because he could rely on his top-notch wrestling and he knows he's got a good jiu-jitsu squeeze? He really puts guys in danger. Like I think he knew if the fight was going to get to the ground versus Trinaldo, he would have a serious advantage there.
Oh, he's tough, and he also he let Trinaldo tire himself out, and he put the pressure on at the right time. So his timing is good with grappling, and cardio.
It's a real cocky guy here, man. He wants Khabib next.
Super confident. I like that. He's called every opponent out in his last couple fights.
Yeah, I mean, like him or dislike him, whatever he's been doing recently has been working in terms of getting more exposure. Because I've known him to be a good fighter for a little while, and he wasn't getting the right amount of exposure. And now I think he's beating some names, and people have to kind of take him for real.
How do you think his striking looked in this fight?
He's one of those hookers. He likes to throw a lot of hooks.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
He's one of them hookers over there.
like cousin was a traveling fighter.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he's got a good jab, but he doesn't use it much, and he's got a lot of power in his punches. The technical striking isn't quite there yet. I think that's kind of what cost him when he got knocked out by the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. But besides that one loss, I forget even that guy's name, man. But besides getting knocked out by that Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, who I'm sure he probably beats 9 out of 10 times, he's had a real successful run in the UFC.
And I think he's gotten a lot better with each fight too.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Next in the rematch between Alex Oliveira and Tim Means, it didn't go anything as last time, did it, Dema?
Yeah, what a fight. This was the first one to start off the main card. This makes a move to Fox Sports 1. This is a rematch in what there was some bad blood from the last one. Alex Oliveira, Tim Means. What can you remind us what happened in their last exchange?
Yeah, man, it was a crazy back and forth fight. Oliveira came, kicked him across the ring, and Means stumbled, but Means kind of he looked to be the better fighter in that one. He got in an advantageous position, was making it work for him, and then inexplicably he kind of kneed him in the face for no reason. I mean, he was in a good position to either score a lot of points or win the fight, but he thought it was legal to knee him in the face there when it surely wasn't. It showed in the replay. He argued it, but in reality, it was a pretty illegal knee. Even under the new rule set, it would still be considered an illegal knee. So,
yeah, blatant, no doubt about it. So Oliveira unable to continue from that point, and the fight is ruled a disqualification.
Yeah, that was their first fight, and here in their second one, Oliveira just he showed new skills to his game. He's been showing an improved takedown defense in his past fights, but in this fight, he kind of showed a more aggressive takedown style, and he was taking Tim Means down, and eventually he pulled off the submission, and he was winning, I would say, 95% of that fight, and anything that Tim Means landed wasn't that effective on it.
Yeah, man, Alex Oliveira shows improvement with each fight. He came out, and first round was pretty close as far as at least the first half of it. But yeah, ultimately he came in there and imposed his will, especially there in the second round where he was able to secure the finish. Now there was a couple of funny things about the fight. He was using his toes on the cage a lot in the beginning, and Big John started yelling at him.
Did you see where Big John grabbed his face?
Yeah, this is where I'm leading to.
Oh.
He was yelling at him for using his toes throughout the match several times. And then at the end, I believe Alex Oliveira, lots of Oliveiras fighting. Excuse me. Alex Oliveira, I think he threw a leg kick, and he hits Tim Means, and John McCarthy just goes ballistic, pulls him aside, he grabs him by the face, and yells at him. I later, through MMA media or through another podcast, I learned he grabbed his face and yelled at him, "If you want to be a champion one day, you need to cut the shit out." So classy move by John McCarthy, who's just an awesome referee.
When McCarthy become a life coach?
Yeah, I mean, he put him in place and gave him a motivational speech at the same time.
I don't know, man. If you ask me who the best referee is, I'm gonna tell you John McCarthy, and no longer doing it Josh Rosenthal. But I don't think it's out of line for him to grab somebody's face. What if Alex would have punched him? Would you fault Alex for that then?
Yeah, you don't.
Like,
You're not supposed to put your hands on.
would John McCarthy grab Gilbert Ivel like that?
But John McCarthy is one of those referees that just suns fighters.
I think it's because
You don't fuck with Big John.
yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Like, Alex Oliveira, what's he gonna do if he punches Big John? He's about to get his ass kicked by the referee.
And Big John's a big guy. I mean, he's fought. He's got experience.
He's a
What's gonna happen?
Yeah, and I think that kind of allowed him to do that, but I don't think it's cool to grab somebody's face like that, man. He could have explained his point. Like when I was a substitute teacher, when I was working in schools as a teacher assistant and stuff, I would have never dared touch the kids, man. If they don't want to listen to me, they don't want to listen to me. You don't
I agree
grab
with you,
somebody's
but
face.
that's you're teacher student and you're working with the county system, school system. This is a bit different. We're in a fighting game, and he it's what he said. He said, if you want to be champion one day, you need to cut this shit out.
Regardless, though, Oliveira, man, this is a win over Means now, and Will Brooks back to back. Will Brooks is a serious competitor, man. He was a big signing from Bellator, the champ over there, and I mean, Oliveira, man, he's been underestimated, but the only guy that's really had great success versus him so far was Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah, let's circle back to the fight. Um, yeah, man, this was awesome. The submission finish came, and Alex Oliveira, like I said before, is improving in every fight.
I like it, man. I look forward to Alex Oliveira's next fight, and I hope they keep Tim Means around, man. Tim Means is a real scrappy veteran, and they kept the guy with the Mike Pyle around for so long, so I don't see how Tim Means is any different.
Yeah, I think Tim Means is a guy who's been around for a minute and a fan favorite, so I think he sticks around. Certainly, I hope he does.
Cool. Next fight on the card we had Betch Correa versus Marion Renault. A good back and forth fight. What do you think about it?
Um, it was a back and forth fight. It was a close one, and I was actually surprised by the result of it. I did not think it was going to be ruled a majority draw. However, I do not disagree with this decision. The way I see this fight breaking down is Marion secures first two.
Well,
Or Betch, no, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Betch secures the first 2 rounds, and Marion dominantly secures the third round, which warrants the 10-8.
I agree with you. I also had the third round 10-8. I scored the first round slightly to Marion Renault, but I knew it was so close. It's in Brazil. It's going to Betch. You know, Betch is big crowd favor there.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking it was going to go 2-1, and
that
mostly...
round's going to Betch. No, like if a round is close and you're the home country fighter, you're gonna win that round more times than not.
Yeah, that's in line with how it's been in the past.
And I would say Betch, due to that kind of judging, won the first round. Was steady Eddie in the second round. You know what cracks me up about watching Beth fight? Dema. Watching Beth fight, man, she gets this crazy look on her face and like her like mean
Looks bewildered a little
her
bit.
mean angry look is just like really funny to me, man. Like she's so serious, so into it, like so concentrated and like trying to look mean at the same time. She just looks really funny doing it, but you know she's gonna bring a lot of energy, and I don't think more times than not she's the less skilled fighter in there, but she's gonna bring a lot of energy to that fight, and sometimes just win off of sheer volume and wanting it more than the other gal.
Yeah, Betchy just constantly plodded forward. She looked awkward in a lot of exchanges, but ultimately she pressed forward and was able to land, even though her combinations were not the cleanest and did look somewhat wild. That this is where she takes the first 2 rounds, and then Marion threw some head kicks in there, had her hurt a couple times in the fight, and got some really good ground and pound in the last round.
Yeah, she really turned the tide when she landed that kick. It looked a little bit like the Lyoto Machida kick he landed on Randy Couture back in the day.
Yeah.
It looked a little bit like that, but it obviously didn't have as much power as Lyoto packed. But because Beth just kind of, she didn't eat it. She started stumbling, and Beth is a tough girl, so if she starts stumbling, you know you got her in trouble. And Marion started working the ground game, which I thought was a mistake personally, because I forget who the ref was, but they were pretty darn close to stopping it. They were looking over the fight because Betch was hurt and she was landing some ground and pound, and then Marion went for the rear naked, which I thought was a odd decision. But hey, I'm not the fighter, you know. If she felt like she could get that submission, you know, she only gets to do that fight once. She doesn't get a retry.
And now, so submission attempts are being judged more so. So going for that submission there, she might have been just doing it for the points, considering there might not have been a lot of time left.
I agree, but like we talked about in prior episodes, you can't go for points. You got to go for the finish. So I think it was a miscalculated decision by her to avoid going for the finish, which she was already doing, and switch to trying to get a submission.
So let's circle back to this decision. I don't have a problem with it, and here is why. They are talking about implementing more 10-8s and more possibility of there being draws. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of those 10-8s that's people always kind of said should be given out more liberally, as before in the past, you could have a guy get mauled and it would still be a 10-9 round. That's first thing. Second thing, my hat is off to Brazil for not being biased in judging. I don't know who the commission appointed or if the judges were Brazilian, but I think this was the right call.
Yeah, Brazil's got their own commission, Dema, but I agree with you about the decision. Marion, like that would be a harder round to argue that it wasn't 10-8 than it was because of the amount of damage, how close the referee was to stopping the fight. And like I said, I scored the first round for Marion, but it was so close that you can't really get upset with who the judges gave it to. And since they're in Brazil, they're going to give it to Betch. Especially Betch is throwing a lot of volume. And but it was an okay fight. It wasn't like I'm not gonna go rewatch it.
Nah, it was. There was one funny part that before we move on, that I caught on the slow mo. There was one part where Betch got kicked in the head so hard she actually punched herself.
Yeah, Betch did punch herself once in the fight
afterwards due to the impact, and I was like, oh man. She doesn't look like the most coordinated fighter, but who am I to talk shit? I've never fought in the cage before. So.
No, she's just a ferocious gal, though. She really goes hard for it.
And I think that's what won her the first 2 rounds. She pushed the pace.
And you talk about great judging. I didn't think the next fight was greatly judged. I thought Juicy would beat him.
Yeah, let's go into the next one. Flyweight division, Ray Borg defeats Jesse Formiga in what was ruled a unanimous decision.
Yeah, I can see it. I think they gave Borg the second and third rounds, and I think they gave Jussier the first round. I scored first 2 rounds for Jussier, so I thought Borg needed a knockout in that third round personally.
Isn't Borg the guy that they've been pushing to go and fight Demetrius next, possibly?
Not next, but they do want to push him in that top 5. They see a lot of potential in him. I think the only guy that beat him considerably was Justin Scoggins, and he had a really impressive showing versus Louis Smolka before this, where he dominated Smolka, who was in the top 10 at the time. So they're trying to steady move him up, and he's going to. Jussier was the 3rd-ranked fighter at that weight class.
I mean, Demetrius is just so dominant. I think they're kind of grabbing at straws at who to get to fight him next. So maybe down the road, Ray Borg, 1 or 2 fights, he'll be fighting for the title if he continues winning.
I agree. He's probably two fights away.
Yeah. So about this fight, how do you break this fight down? I don't remember much of it. Can you give me a little bit of a reminder?
Yeah. Formiga got his back a couple times. Formiga showed to still be a real dangerous grappler. It was kind of a real position battle. It's a hard fight to kind of explain without having to go back and doing like a fight cast, a pot fight, because all they're really doing was a lot of switching positions. But in the stand up, they looked pretty even. Like I said, man, it's really just what kind of style you like better because I think you could have came up with a winner either way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, from the sound of it, for sure. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. My attention span was kind of dwindling because it was getting later and later in the night. And the next two fights, the co-main and the main event, I did have to go back and rewatch in order for me to be able to talk about it more efficiently. So this fight, I did not go back and rewatch, so a lot of what happened is lost on me. But going off of what you said, it sounded like it was a battle for a position, kind of back and forth, and like you said, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, it was a real close fight, and I was okay with the decision. Like even Sherdog, they scored the second and third rounds for Borg. All three of their guys did so. And first round for Juicy de Silva, Formiga, which I'm okay with. Like I said, Borg had a lot of he had success against Formiga where a lot of other guys have struggled.
I'm
The,
so excited about the next three. I can't wait till you
yeah, the next one woke me up. You were talking about that. I was kind of like, man, I hope it gets better, and sure did.
I mean, as I like to say, these three are gonna be the meat and potatoes of the main card.
You love that kiss line, meat and potatoes.
We're Russian. Meat and potatoes is how we do it.
Yes.
Yes, cousin.
Go ahead, dude.
First, the Coco main event in lightweight division. Edson Barbosa defeats Benny Dariush. KO flying knee second round. Holy shit. This fight was fireworks. And what was, a crazy turnaround. Let me start off with my quick, rundown, breakdown, analysis of the situation. So Beniel comes out and he's moving forward. He doesn't play he doesn't play any shit with Barbosa. Like he doesn't want to stay in the kicking range. He wants to stifle him. He keeps moving forward, puts together combinations. Even when shit doesn't land, he does it just so that Barbosa doesn't plant and throw the kicks. And he does this to a T. Like, he does this excellently. And Beniel Dariush, he wins the first round in my books. He is able to land from distance. He pushes the pace. He kind of mixes in with the takedowns. Even though, did he get him down in the first? Did he get Barbosa down?
If he did, it wasn't for long. Barbosa did show good takedown defense, and I agree with you. He did win the first round. Dariush came out real nice, strong in the first round. He was putting a lot of pressure on Barbosa.
But my point being, Benny takes the first round, has an excellent game plan, lands kicks of his own, and he starts doing the same thing in the second round. Except Barbosa has been reading him, and he sees one thing in what Beniel Dariush tends to do. Beniel Dariush throws a jab and he does a quick level change where he kind of lets the jab hang out and then he goes right into the takedown. And I think Barbosa has observed that in the first round and he catches it on the second. And this is one of those things where he analyzed it and he took a chance without, seeing the thing. He kind of guessed it. And he lands not one of those quick, beautiful flying knees that just intercepts and catches Beniel right in the jaw. And the timing of it is a thing of beauty. I mean, I can nerd out and talk about this fight, just this finish, for 5 more minutes. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you.
Yeah, it resembled a little bit of a couple weeks ago in Bellator when Paul Daly knocked out Brendan Ward. The way he jumped with the knee and caught him.
Yeah,
I think you did a good job with the play-by-play. I would just say Beniel, for me, he was moving forward. He was doing good. Like he trains over there at Kings, and you could tell they had a good striking game plan for him. Something similar to how Tony Ferguson fought
yeah. Rafael
Barbosa.
Cordero was in this corner. He had a sound game plan.
And Cordero, if you remember, he walked out like 3, 4 fights in a row. That was something cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, they had him, and he's been at King's MMA for a while. He had a good game plan. He seemed to have the kind of skills to really give Barbosa problems. But Barbosa, man, he's a kick and finisher, man. He's got 5 different like styles of finishes with kicks.
Brother, he read him like a book. I mean, that was a thing of beauty. It wasn't as as like of a big high profile jumping knee as the Paul Daly one that you talk about was. I think Paul Daly kind of launched himself in the air more. This one was like really short, just quick intercept knee that you realize exactly what happened when you see it on the replay. When it happens live, you're just like, holy shit, what just happened? Because you just see a guy fall down. You don't really see the impact at first.
Yeah, real athletic. But like he's got some Barbosa's highlight reel of kick finishes is something to behold.
Yeah, man. Baniel fought a really, really good fight, and Barbosa just still he worked around that and was able to catch him. This guy finds his targets.
Dema, where do they go from here?
Barbosa, up obviously. He's top 5 guy. If he doesn't fight for the title, I mean, wait, what weight division is this?
I believe he's at 155.
This is lightweight. Ooh, this is shit.
He's got a lot of guys.
This is
he
stacked.
Can fight.
This is stacked.
Nate Diaz, Michael Johnson, Dustin Poirier, all kinds of names up there.
Poirier has a fight with Alvarez, so that's taken off. Michael Johnson is floating around there.
RDA left the division to welterweight.
Wow.
Yeah, RDA's next fight's at welterweight, which I'm expecting him to look really good. I think he's going to move around, and God, I hate how every podcast I say move around, but I think he's going to be more close to his natural weight, like some of these guys were.
Yeah, he won't be as drained. He'll have better cardio probably.
Mm-hmm.
Not having to cut down so much weight.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. You could go on about how nice that knee was for a very long time. It's definitely going to be in the highlight reels for years to come.
Where does Baniel go from here, to kind of go back on your question?
It's a good question, Dima. I think he's got to take some positives out of this fight because he was looking good against Edson Barbosa. He was looking like he was going to maybe get the victory in there because he was winning the fight up until he got knocked out. The thing that he's got to learn from this, in my opinion, is he's got to learn to be a little bit more patient. He got reckless, seeing that he was having success, and I don't think he calculated that Barbosa was maybe timing him, and that was the reason for some of his success.
Right. A little bit lazy on the jab. I heard, some people with striking experience going back and analyzing this fight, which helped me with some of my insight to this breakdown. He left his jab out, kind of took his time and was somewhat lazy with it and didn't retract, and Barbosa was able to read the takedown. He kind of fainted with it, so Barbosa saw it.
And Beniel threw good kicks that fight.
He landed more kicks than Barbosa did.
He was throwing not only good punches but good kicks, and he's dangerous in the grappling, but it never came to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good matchup, and Barbosa found a way to win again.
Yeah, man, for sure. So Barbosa, there's lots of killers in the lightweight division he can fight. Top 5, top 10 fight for sure. Beneil Dariush, despite the loss, I mean, he's still a top competitor, and the way he handled himself in the first round of this fight goes to show that.
I agree. He's probably gonna get somebody that's floating up there around the 10 range next, like maybe Marbek Tumanov, winner of his fight.
Yeah, gonna be interesting to see where both of them go from here. Let's go into the co-main event in light heavyweight division. Mauricio Rua defeats Gian Vellante TKO third round. Wow, what a fight, dude.
Yeah, man, it got the Brazilian crowd all on their feet. They want to see one of their guys win, a legend. Shogun came in there, man, and he's working with what he's got to work with now. If you notice, he barely threw any kicks in that fight, maybe 3, 4 kicks, because his knees don't work like they used to. But you got to give it to him, man. His hands still looked good. He was still had good head movement for an older fighter. I don't see him taking on the top guys anymore, but realistically, he's about fifth in the division right now. So he's gonna have to. Gian, I was underwhelmed with Gion's performance. He did hurt Shogun a couple times. He seemed to have a lot of power, but he also looked real stiff in there, and maybe showed Shogun a little bit too much respect. Shogun had him hurt 2, 3, 4 times before he actually got the finish. And I think it was kind of a planned thing because Shogun's got himself in trouble before kind of emptying the gas tank.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, I think he had the gas tank to empty it in the third round, which he did, and finished him like that.
Well, to go back on what you just said, he paced himself really well. Every time he had Gian hurt, he wouldn't just go 0 to 100 in an attempt to finish. He hung back. He calculated his shots well, and that's what won him the fight. He was able to keep his gas tank up in that he didn't necessarily pursue the finish when he had Gian hurt, but it came. He capitalized. You know, his timing was right. He paced himself. He didn't fight like the Shogun of Pride. He fought like the Shogun that's older, smarter, more intelligent. Still has that fantastic technical Muay Thai base. He's capable of generating a lot of power in his kicks. Still to this day, even though he didn't use them as much. Man, I mean, as a fan of Shogun, you must be pretty stoked about this fight.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't call myself a huge Shogun fan, but I do take my hat off to him, man. Like a lot of times, he's gone through a lot of injuries. You know, he's not the same fighter that he used to be, but gotta give credit where it's due. He was able to, do that learning curve that a lot of the older fighters were not able to, and translate his game and fight some of these younger guys and have success.
Yeah, he was able to counter Gian really well. Gian kept walking forward. He wasn't blocking a lot of the times. Gian's coaching was very upset at him throughout many parts of the fight. They were yelling at him, telling him to.
He's got a really good corner, doesn't he? Sarah Longo team, I think.
I don't remember. They sounded like they were from New York.
Pretty sure
they had
Sarah
a thick
Longo
New York
team,
accent.
yeah.
But they were pissed. They were yelling at Gian to pursue the finish because he did have Shogun hurt there many times, and he just kind of stood there and didn't pursue and let Shogun recover. And I guess that's what his corner was pissed off about. And then there was also some times where just Shogun caught him coming in many times, and his corner was upset in that he was letting Shogun repeatedly counter and do the same thing over and over and over again.
It seemed like one of those fights, like as a fighter, Guillon's gonna watch it back and be like, man, I really didn't let it all hang out there. That's like win or lose. I think like if you lose, but you go out there like kind of like Brian Stann did versus Vanderlei, and you gave it everything you had, but you lost. Like I think you're okay with that. But if you lose in devastating fashion the way that he did, and you left some things out on the table, that's gotta sting, man.
Yeah, and I think that might be one of the reasons why his coaching team was mad at him.
And from what I've seen, Guion is a lot better than he showed in there. I think being in there with somebody the level of Shogun really got to him. I don't think he was quite prepared for it. And you got to give Shogun credit too, man. Shogun fought a good fight.
Could be multiple factors. Co-main event, co-main event spot. On first time, UFC is the biggest promotion. You have to make your way down to Brazil, do the weight cut, do the time difference. The crowd is hostile. Lots of things at play here. You can't really put a finger on what exactly happened, and other than sit back and say, "Oh, Gian didn't pull the trigger." But yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Shogun. This was a great performance. He has a lot of wear and tear on him as far as fighting, and the way he came out, he put together a perfect game plan. He paced himself really well, landed the shots he needed to land, and put Gian there and they ended the fight.
Good fight. Congratulations to Shogun. Um, Guion didn't really look to be the 15th best light heavyweight in the world by any means in that fight, but still, it was a fun co-main event, and I'm happy the Brazilian fans got what they wanted that one.
Now, moving on into the main event, this was not what Brazilian
Oh,
fans wanted to see at all. We saw Kevin Gastelum beat the everlasting hell out of Vitor Belfort and knock him out pretty much in the first round.
well, it was back and forth, Dema, at first because Belfort came with his typical blitz.
Yeah, he did blitz him a few times.
He showed like still got quick hands. He didn't show the same physique by any means as his prior days. It was kind of funny, man. They were showing like his head kick knockouts of Hendo, Rockhold, and Bisbee.
Yeah, where he looked like a different fighter completely.
And then they showed him in the ring before this one, and he did not look the same by any means, but he did show like that he still got quick hands.
Yeah, of course, and some of those instincts are still there. It's just he's not as fast as he was, and ultimately he's fought for such a long time. He's not able to take the punches against faster um, and more younger opponents like Kevin Gastelum.
Yeah, but where I was getting at is Gasol had really quick hands too, man. And for that middleweight division, he's got some of the fastest hands in that whole division, man. He's got great wrestling, really good hands. He's gonna be a problem. I don't know why he wants to fight at 170 so bad. He's looking great at 185. Now went through Tim Kennedy, went through Vitor Belfort, and I'd probably have him as the favorite for whoever he was fighting next. I mean, he's really had success his whole career. I mean, even the two fights he lost were split decision losses that could have gone his way against T Wood and the lanky guy Neil Magny.
Yeah, a tough opponent in Neil Magny, and a fight against a guy who's current champion at the welterweight, Tyron
Both
Woodley.
split decisions.
Yeah.
Too.
So, yeah, Kevin Gastelum is looked impressive his whole run since the Ultimate Fighter show. He looked good there. He upset a lot of people. Kind of came in as a dark horse. Not a lot of people were high on him. He had impeccable wrestling, and the guy is a human cannonball. Like, he's hard to move. He uses his weight really well, and as of recently, he looked really really quick as far as his striking. Like, I think a handful of guys are beginning to realize that these weight cuts that they put themselves through are draining and taking a lot of spring out of them for the fight.
Yeah, Gaslam is another Kings MMA guy, man. It was weird. They had Cordero in his corner and all that. Um, he's just like you said, man. He's a cool guy. He's easy to get behind, real respectful. Um, but you could tell, man, he's one of those guys. He got on tough. Everybody underestimated. Picked last. Picked 16th out of 16 guys.
Yeah,
Won,
nobody had any idea.
won the show, and he's just kept winning, man. And against all odds, they're always like, "Oh, this guy's gonna be too good for Kelvin." Nope, Kelvin's getting better, man. And he gave a pretty cool speech after the thing. I didn't know that he speaks Portuguese, but apparently he speaks like a Portuguese mixture with Spanish.
What?
Yeah, he speaks Portuguese, but I think it's kind of like accent, like
Uh huh.
like we would have if we lived in
Oh, okay.
that kind of accent. But yeah, he had them sing his mom happy birthday because he had to miss it for the camp, and Brazilian crowd, man, as much like clashing as they've had with American fighters and all that, they've really got behind Kelvin, even though he beat one of their own. And I've even seen in the Reds in some places that Kelvin had almost as many fans in there cheering for him as Vitor did. But I don't know, it did sound a little bit louder for Vitor watching the fight live.
Yeah. And Vitor is clearly a hometown guy. Not hometown, but fellow Brazilian, and he's gonna be cheered on because that's how they roll in Brazil. But yeah, to go back on what you were saying, Kevin is just kind of a hard guy to boo or go against. He's always been super nice, super humble, and has put on a lot of impressive performances.
He's a beast in there.
Yeah, man, he's put together like a good string of wins.
Yeah, and I mean he's got everything he needs to compete. Great wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, and quick, strong hands.
Yeah.
Hard guy to overlook. There were a couple talking points. Vitor Belfort, he said he's got one more fight on his contract. He wants to make that his last fight. He wants to make it at UFC 212. It's gonna be the next Brazil card.
Sounds about right. I just hope they give him not an easier fight, but somebody more competitive. I mean, it's becoming kind of a whack trend where they're taking these fighters, the fighters that we like to watch for a long time, big names, veterans, and just completely throw them in the wood chipper against these young killers.
I tend to agree with you, but screw Vitor, man. He put so many people's lives in danger by taking drugs and going in there and fighting them. His whole career he's been cheating, so the fact that they're putting him in there with killers now, that's fine with me. He cheated his way to get to where the killers are.
I see your point, but you can't have it. You take care of some guys and other guys. You gotta have a standard. You gotta take care of everybody, despite of one guy doing something in his past that's worse than some of the others.
Yeah, I agree in some perfect land, but at the same time, Belfort has, he hasn't really honored the game like the one. If you've honored the game your whole career, then yeah, you deserve that respect. But Belfort has, I mean, you can find in every period of his career there was a point where he was cheating. So it's safe to say he cheated his entire career.
So, what do you think would be a good fight for both of the gentlemen
Let's,
going forward? I like this being Vitor's retirement fight in his hometown, Rio.
I want to see Gastelum move. Actually, I personally want to see him stay at middleweight. He said he's got no. He's real adamant about going down to 170.
I thought he called out Anderson Silva.
Yeah, he called out Anderson Silva, and so did Luke Rockhold, and today Yoel Romero called out Anderson Silva too.
Oh shit!
He said if he was going to take one fight while he waited, he wants Anderson Silva. Can you answer me this? Riddle me this. Why is everybody calling Anderson out all of a sudden?
They want that big money fight, son.
Okay, I guess Anderson is a money fight.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah. Do they think it's going to be an easy victory or something?
I think he might be the biggest name that's not as formidable of a challenge as he used to be.
Like Kelvin in his post-fight speech, he says he's got a friend, and I know who that friend is. He's talking about Chael Sonnen. He said, I got a friend who started a legend ass kicking tour, and I want to finish it. And he was talking about Chael Sonnen.
Oh, Chael fed him that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
that's classic
textbook Chael right there.
And they're good friends.
Yep.
They're good friends. And I do think he wants to finish what Chael couldn't start, and I think he's got the skills to beat Anderson, whereas Chael did.
Right on. Jacare floating around middleweight.
Oh, they got some killers in that weight class. That's becoming one of my favorite weight classes.
Yeah, and
With Musasi, Jacare, Yoel, Bisbing's making a resurgence. I'm not too interested in GSP in that weight division.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's unfortunately being held up by we're gonna have this super fight.
We got Robert Whitaker in that division. I mean, we got some real killers.
Ooh, what do you think about Whitaker versus Gastelum?
Doesn't Whitaker have a fight lined up already?
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right.
Does Whitaker fight Jacare?
Yeah, because I
So-
said Yacare's floating around. No, he's not. He's got. This was one of those that got announced.
I'd never bet against Jacare, man. As much as I like Mr. Whitaker and his power and his good skills and his hunger to become better, I don't think he beats Jacare.
Unless he comes out and just hits him with some shit like Yoel did.
I mean, I think Luke Rockhold has the skills to compete with Jacare. I think Yoel's got the skills, and that might be it. Maybe Gegard, but
There's a guy, Luke Rockhold, doesn't have a fight. Kevin Gastelum, potential.
Luke's still on injury, right?
I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. That'll really. I like that, Dema. That'll really show you where Kelvin is in the division. If he can beat like a Luke Rockhold, then wow. I mean, you can't doubt this kid anymore, and he's one or two fights away from the title shot.
Yeah. So he's looking good at middleweight. Hendricks is looking good at middleweight. You think that fight may potentially
Battle of the short, stocky guys.
again? They might do it again like they did with Lombard.
Didn't they fight? I kind of want to see fresh fights. I want to see a fight that's already happened.
Oh yeah, they did fight at 170. Almost both of them didn't make weight.
And remember, Kelvin looked way better with the hands. Kelvin was kind of piecing them up like Tim Kennedy. The only difference was Hendricks has a little bit better chin than Kennedy, and he was eating them. He was eating those punches.
Eating them like Boygas.
Hendricks has a good chin, though. I don't remember too many guys besides that. Actually, who did somebody knocked Johnny Hendricks out pretty bad?
Oh man, my memory.
Hector Lombard? No,
No,
he beat Hector.
Yeah, he did.
That was just last week. Somebody knocked out Hendricks. I don't remember who it was, though. Oh, was it Wonder Boy? I think Wonder Boy hurt him with punches.
Yeah, he stopped him. There you go. Didn't knock him out. It was like
it
was a stop.
He was fine still. He's a hard guy to knock out.
Very true. Lots of exciting fights in the middleweight division. It's like one of those where there's just a murderer's row.
And Dima, I had another question for you. Did you ever see the poster for this event?
The poster?
And the one coming up. I know you're a graphics design guy, so I kind of wanted to hear your opinion on these posters that have been coming out. They've been, in my opinion, a little bit on the ugly side, a little bit on the amateur side.
Well, they've just been all uniformly boring. They're very interchangeable. They don't seem like they're very hard. They take very, very top-notch photographs of these guys, and then just as far as the designers, they just throw them in together.
Well, just a random one. Pull up the Daniel Cormier versus Anthony Johnson 2-1. It's kind of a funny one.
Oh, if you want to get into design, this last one, Belfort Gastelum, actually didn't look that bad, but I agree. Like these next couple of ones look pretty generic. The Cormier Johnson one where Johnson just like towers over Cormier.
Here it is.
Oh, I have a different one. I have this one. This is the one that
the one
DC
that
was pissed off about because this one might be official.
That is kind of funny because it makes DC look like this little
he looks
guy.
like a little fat guy, just
and like Anthony Johnson's coming to eat him.
Yeah, he looks like King Kong.
Yeah, man, that's funny. I'm excited about that fight coming up. But we could every time we hear about a fight, we could just blabber on and shoot the ones. But overall, man, UFC Fight Night 106, pretty cool card, huh, Dima? You had fun watching it?
Yeah, man. These last three were just three awesome back-to-back fights, finishes, some high-level shit right there.
Yeah, this upcoming card that we're gonna go over, I would say. There's a few fighters on here that we don't know a ton about, so like we told you in the past, we're not just going to pretend to know about them. If we know about the fighters, we're gonna tell you about them. If not, we'll let you know that as well.
Okay, and we won't spend a lot of time talking about these. Like you said, not the most well-known fighters, and we're not gonna make shit up and beat around the bush.
Yeah,
So
like you said, we already got through the meat and potatoes of UFC Fight Night 106, Gastelum versus Belfort.
this one has some potential, fireworks.
Yeah, a lot of up and comers, a lot of like interesting prospects on this card.
Let's go bottom up real quick. Lena Landsberg, Lucy Pudilova. I don't know much about either of the ladies, so if you can give us anything on this.
I'm with you. All I know is Lucy Pudilova is making her UFC debut. I believe she's 6-1. Her one loss, Dema, actually came to Lena Landsberg.
So this is a rematch.
Yes, this is somewhat of a rematch. And Lena Landsberg, if you remember, she's had one fight in the UFC, and she was basically fed to Cyborg.
Oh, yeah.
She was the real pretty girl that got
fed
to Cyborg.
Yeah, it was a 140 catchweight fight.
And she goes by the nickname the Elbow Princess.
Oh, shit.
So, I don't know. If she's won the fight and she's proven that she could beat this girl, I don't see why change until you're shown differently. So I'm going to be leaning towards Landsberg.
Right on. Next fight in middleweight division, Bradley Scott versus Scott Askham.
Yeah, two decent prospects. I believe that's a light heavyweight fight.
It says middleweight here for some reason.
You're right, actually. I think it is a middleweight fight. Because his last fight, Bradley Scott lost to Jotko. He's beat Dylan Andrews and lost to Damn, he lost to that guy? He lost to Claudio Henrique da Silva. So...
He's got, he's been on the up and down kind of a road.
They both have. I'm leaning towards Scott Askham in that one. Scott seems like he's got a pretty good kickboxing game. He seems like a long fighter. He's probably got a slight advantage there.
I don't have a prediction for this, other than both guys have some losses and a few wins in their they're both like 2-3 in their last 5.
Yeah, they got some interesting styles on this card. Like some of the fighters have interesting styles. I believe like this next fight, bantamweight Ian Entwistle. He's like a leg lock guy. I remember watching one fight where he just went for the leg lock attacks, disregarding everything else. And the Spanish kid he was fighting, it was his last fight. I forget who it was. He was fighting one of the Spanish fighters. He was going for the leg lock so hard. He just wasn't even defending his face. And the guy was like, oh, okay. Boom, boom. And knocked him out. So, I don't know, man. He doesn't have a complete game. He's going to be trying to go for a leg locks. And Brett Johns was really impressive in his first UFC fight. I don't quite remember the opponent, but I do remember. I do remember the opponent. It was an Asian guy, and I can't remember his name because he's got like 3 names. But Brett Johns looked real impressive in that one, man. He showed a well-rounded martial arts game that I believe is going to be enough to beat Ian.
Fair enough. Moving right along, we have welterweight Leon Edwards versus Vicente Luque.
Surprised it's not on the main card, man. These are 2 surging prospects.
I think they have to have more high-profile fights in there in the prelims. I think this is going to be an all Fight Pass, right?
I believe, yeah. It's another Fight Night 107, so it should be, yeah, I believe either Fight Pass or FS1.
Oh, well, in that case, no difference. I am looking at it right now. Actually, the whole thing is going to be Fight Pass card. So this is going to kind of be like the college games, if you could compare it to like college pro.
I get what you're saying. This is like not the top of the division guys, but guys that are future threats.
Yeah, like on the up and up. Mm-hmm. We'll see where they go from here.
Like for example, Vicente Luque here, he's got 5 fights in the UFC. He lost his first one to Michael Graves. But he's been on a 4-fight win streak, all finishes too, man. He beat Hader Hassan, Alvaro Herrera, Hector Urbina, and most recently knocked out Bilal Muhammad with pretty quickly. Leon Edwards is also showing a big improvement. Last fight, he showed a really good wrestling game. I'm trying to. Do you remember who he fought last?
He fought Albert Tumanov and beat him by submission in the third round. He got him in a rear naked choke.
Man, he took Albert down a lot in that fight, man. It's weird. Leon came into UFC as just a kickboxer, and it really shows you how far his wrestling game and overall MMA game has grown. And it's an exciting fight between two surging prospects right here.
Yeah, right on.
Same way with the next one.
Yeah, Tom Breeze in middleweight division is facing against Alunwale Bangbazi. Bam shit.
Boozy.
Bangbuzi?
I don't know, man. I guess where's his record?
What you know about these guys?
I know Boozy. He had a really nasty KO versus Daniel Serafin, and then came back down to earth when he fought Mutante Cesar Ferreira. So he's definitely got some holes in his game. He unloads the whole, but Bangbuse Ulawal, he's a real powerful guy. While Tom Breeze is both powerful and skilled, and training up there in what is that? The team in Canada with Farhad.
Farhad Zahabi, TriStar.
Yeah, he's been training at TriStar Gym and shown good improvements. He's had some tough fights in the UFC, but he seems to be a big prospect.
This is gonna be interesting. Alan Wale is like one of those guys that goes in there. He's a finisher, very powerful guy. He just goes in there. He's a berserker, kill or be killed type of guy. Has a couple of losses. I think he got caught by Uriah Hall.
That was his first fight on short notice in the UFC. Good call.
And that last one he fought, where he fought Cesar Mutache and lost a decision fight. And Tom Breeze comes in with he was 10-1, 10-0 undefeated record until he fought Sean Strickland. That was his last fight, and that was a close fight. He lost a split decision there.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was a really good fight.
So this one, we can offer some insight about some of the guys. I would probably lean towards Tom Breeze here. He's gonna kind of hang back and let Alunwale just unload, and he's gonna catch him after he tires himself out.
I agree, Dema. Mutante kind of he threw down the blueprint of how to beat Bangaboos. Bamboos is a real athletic guy, man. He's gonna be throwing knees, flying knees, and stuff. And that's kind of like you said. It's kind of the key to it is make him use his own energy against them. Kind of like Soto did to Ronnie Yaya. And eventually, when the fight gets later, that's when you drown him.
Right. And I think Tom Breeze has some experience on him, so we'll see how he is able to use grappling to his advantage here. Let's move along. Next fight, lightweight division. Mark Diakisi versus Timu Pakalin.
Yeah, man. Diakisi looked like everything he was advertised in his first fight. He fought Frankie Perez, and actually it was a close fight, but he showed the power. He showed why he was a big prospect over there in Canada. And Timu's a veteran. I don't know too much about him, but I know that he's got a lot of fights, and he's a veteran in the game.
I don't know much about him. Like you said, where does he come from?
Paklin, I believe, is Finnish.
Okay. So probably
he's
kickboxing. If I had to guess, I don't know much about the guy.
He's Finnish. He looks like he's fought two Frenchmen in the UFC. He lost to Mikel Lebout by decision, and he beat Thibaut Guti by submission rear naked choke in 24 seconds. That was his last fight. Oh yeah, it was kind of nasty. I remember he locked on the submission right away, and he was the underdog in that fight. I think he was like a plus 200, plus 300 underdog.
I got you. So a fight of uppercomers,
Yeah,
up and comers.
fight to see who belongs, who's gonna be a contender in the division.
All right, I'll let you go ahead and get into the next one. Got some big boys.
Yeah, light heavyweights. Always tough. Francimar Barrosa is taking on a guy that a lot of people have wanted to see in the UFC for a while. Darren Stewart, big prospect. 7 wins, 0 losses. 5-0 amateur. He's a guy that hasn't experienced losing in MMA a lot.
Yeah, I'm just looking over Francimar Barroso. I don't know much about the guy. I think he lost to homie Nikita Krylov. He choked him out. Nikita did. He has a no contest.
Oh, so this is a rematch.
Yeah. Darren Stewart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, their last fight ended due to an inadvertent headbutt, was ruled a no contest, and they are now
Why do I not remember any
playing
of
this
that
back.
fight? Do you remember that fight at all?
I mean, it's one of those low key cards that happened. I think it was a Brazilian Fight Night card. This was the same card as Bader versus Nog, Lil Nog.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's just me and you don't miss many MMA fights, so I'm like, how did we miss that one?
I think it just might have been like low on the prelim card.
But yeah, man, Francimar's got some wins where he was underdog. He beat Ryan Jimmo, rest in peace. He beat Elvis Mutapchik, and you know he's had some tough fights in the UFC too. But he he's one of the only guys that are light heavyweight at Novo União. I think he's their biggest fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting for him finding training partners. But he shows a well rounded game, and you got to also be well rounded to beat him.
This one's gonna be interesting. We got heavyweight fight between Daniel. I am about to butcher this dude's last name. Do you know how to pronounce Daniel Omalanchuk's last name?
I think you were pretty darn close. Daniel
Omielanchuk?
Omalanchik.
Omalanchik.
Daniel Omalanchik versus Timothy Johnson.
Tim Johnson. All right.
Good wrestler, that Tim Johnson. One of the few elite wrestlers left in MMA. I think he just started like in the UFC. He was simply a wrestler, but he's shown great improvement in his game, and it's gonna be interesting, man. Interesting matchup against Umalanchik, who's a real technical kickboxer.
Yeah. It looks like the guy's a veteran. He's been around for some time. 19 wins, 6 losses. His record has his most recent fight was a loss against Stefan Struve, but before then he beat a couple of guys, including Alexei Olenyuk, as well as a couple of other. We got De La Roca by punches.
Yeah, and if you remember, that was Tim Johnson's last fight, and it was close. It could have gone either way. And oh no, you're talking about Alexei Olenek. No, Tim Johnson fought the other Russian guy, the real Volkov, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
Last, and Volkov is a long, dangerous guy. He's a good fighter, man. And Tim Johnson, man, his power is scary. I can see him definitely knocking Daniel out if he lands the right shot.
Yeah. Only has 2 losses. Gerald Roshold and Alexander Volkov, like you said. And, he's a prospect. Heavyweights is one of those divisions where, sometimes the first guy to land walks away a winner. So lots of unpredictable shit happens.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm right. Joseph Duffy, Reza Madidi, lightweight division.
Yeah, this is the main card for the prelims, or the main fight rather, the headliner for the prelims.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all on Fight Pass.
Yeah, just gonna be a one straight playthrough.
Pretty much.
But Joseph Duffy, he had some problems with negotiating, kind of like Misha Serkinov, who we talked about earlier, and he was able to get a deal done and meets Reza Madadi, who might be outmatched in this one.
Yeah. What? Let's
And
see. Hold
I
on.
like Reza a lot. I mean, he's got an elite grappling game, but Joseph Duffy seems to have a grappling game along with a boxing game. He seems to have more tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, he's a more hyped fighter. He's got a more high profile camp. I think is he still with TriStar?
Yeah, he's still with TriStar, and like you said, that high profile kind of shows in the betting line. I think he's already like a 5-1 favorite.
Yeah, and yeah, I think he's one of those guys that is Conor McGregor's always going to be mentioned there. Because Joe Duffy has a win over him, back in the Irish. What was it, amateurs? Not amateurs, but they were very green fighters when they fought each other.
Agreed.
What can you tell me about Raza Madidi? I kind of know about Joe Duffy, his background more.
Reza, his last fight was against the. It's weird. You remember the guy that got cut? That was also on Ultimate Fighter. That was real good. That was his last fight. Norman Park.
Yeah, Norman Park.
And he showed in that fight like Norman Park was one step ahead of Reza the whole time. He was one step better striking, one step better grappling. And Reza's built as a grappler. I believe he trains over there pretty heavily with Gustafson's team and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he's tough, man. He's got wins over Michael Johnson. He's got some good wins because of his elite game in wrestling, and grappling. But if you're an all around fighter, you could definitely stifle his game.
Yeah, I'm looking at his record now. I mean, I think he's like 9-2 in his last 9 fights. He's got a couple of losses there. One against old shooter box Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach Marcelo
And
Cristiano Marcelo.
if you notice there, he's got a gap in dates. He spent some time in jail. You remember that whole stealing purses thing?
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Oh,
Norman Park was
what?
he made the news. Yeah, he served jail time, like a year's jail time, for like he had like a purse heist. You might want to look it into it later, but he actually had like with a team. He was one of the main guys, but had like an expensive purse heist.
Wow.
And Norman Park actually made fun of him in the last at the weigh-ins. He brought a purse and threw it at him.
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I wonder maybe even on his Wikipedia page it might have some of his criminal stuff, his personal life. Let's see.
I guess he was like the muscle in that operation.
Yeah, it's weird. He also in August 2012 he saved a baby, and they have that on video. And father from drowning in a lake. So he's like, he's a hero, but at the same time he's a criminal,
Wow.
stealing purses and selling them.
Interesting individual.
Yeah, and he, he's a real intense guy. Like every fight I've seen him in, he does his way in,
Mm-hmm.
and he walks right to the other guy and just yells in their face. It's like first thing he does. He's a crazy mofo. Looking forward to this fight though. He's not gonna be a walk in the park for Duffy. If Duffy doesn't try to match his aggression, which I don't expect Duffy to have the same level of aggression as Madidi, because he's a mad dog. That's his nickname, Mad Dog, and he fights like that. But I think his technical skills are gonna be a little bit too much for Reza. Reza's gonna run into something, I believe.
Gotcha. I'm kind of leaning that way with you there. Knowing what I know about Joseph Duffy and kind of looking at Reza Madidi and the quality of his opponents. Even though I gotta say the win over Michael Johnson is something to note.
Impressive, and he submitted Michael Johnson, which very few people do.
Yeah.
And they're both from good camps, so I'm expecting a good fight. I actually think this is better than most of the main card fights, to be honest, if not all of the main card fights. No, we got Alan Jaboyan versus Gunnar Nelson, which is also that's a good one.
Sometimes they tend to put a more high profile fights kind of to end the preliminary card off with,
Mm-hmm.
and then but then again, other times they like to start off the main card with like a high profile.
Yeah,
It all depends.
they did it recently with it was Mirsad and Darren Elkins, and then Jared Sanders and Yuri Alcantara.
Hmm.
Both of those fights are better than some of the main cards, so kind of same principle.
But then they opened up with Hunt and Overeem.
Hunt over him, and then they gave you that girl fight.
Yeah. True. All right, going into the main card from preliminary card, going from Fight Pass to Fight Pass, we have Arnold Allen versus Makwan Amerikani in the featherweight division.
Americani's look good in the UFC. Is he? He's still undefeated, right? In the UFC.
Pulling up.
I think these are two young guys.
Two losses, but he
in the UFC.
Amerikani.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he lost to Adam Ward, and no, this is not UFC.
Yeah, he's undefeated in the UFC, I believe.
He won his last 3 in the UFC.
Okay, so yeah, he is undefeated in the UFC. Mr. Finland is his nickname.
Yeah, got performance of the night. Like he had a flying knee knockout against Andy Ogle.
He's an impressive guy. I've watched training footage of him, like climbing ropes in like 3 seconds. I mean, he's a real athlete. Like, you see a gym full of athletes when you go to these fighters' training camps, and he's like the alpha male in his gym.
Yeah, the dude's a beast.
So, and same way with Arnold Allen, man. He's also a real good prospect. I think he's a British guy from the United Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. But it's one of the biggest United Kingdom versus one of the biggest Finnish prospects.
Interesting. Both guys riding a 4-win streak currently.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say the other fella, Amerikani, has fought in the UFC for just a bit longer and has a little bit more fights on his record.
Next on the card, we got a real veteran looking to retire after this one, actually. Brad Pickett versus Marlon Vera in what is to be Brad Pickett's last fight.
Yeah, fortunately, they were able to find a replacement. Brad Pickett, I know he was really looking forward to retiring in his homeland, kind of making this his send off of a fight. Unfortunately, his original opponent was pulled out, but they found a replacement. Marlos Vera is able to step in a bit last minute here.
Marlon Vera, but who did they replace? Do you remember? Or no?
It was Henry Briones or
Henry Briones. Yeah, so but they're both kind of tough fights for Brad Pickett at this stage of his career. Brad's getting kind of older, and these are two young, hungry guys that I don't think have the same skill. It's kind of like Shogun versus Guion skill level.
Mm-hmm.
But both of these guys can surprise Brad and get the victory. So I like the fight. I think they found a good replacement on the time that they had.
Do you think Brad, it's a winnable fight for him?
Yeah, I think it's a 50-50 fight, but if I'm gonna go off of your betting advice, and if somebody that's not great is talk about retirement and this is their last fight, more times than not they're gonna lose it. But this is a retirement fight like Uriah Faber had.
Yeah, I was about to mention Uriah Faber came in and looked fantastic in his last fight.
It's not like
by
a
the way, it was
surprise
against
like
Brad Pickett.
Misha Tate did. Yeah.
I guess what I was looking at when Misha said, I think she was going over a couple of interviews, and she mentioned she wasn't as motivated about it anymore. She was contemplating, wrapping it up in the next couple of fights. So going off of that, I was like, she's not motivated. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going off of.
Yeah.
Some people go up, their retirement fight, and they fucking perform.
Yeah, something GSP likes to say is this is a young man's game, and what he means by that is like once you kind of start deteriorating, you're not just in there playing a game, you're putting your life on the line. So you kind of want to get out when you're just starting to decline instead of like Jens Pulver when you have a full decline.
Yeah, and my personal opinion, I think Brad Pickett might have lingered a little bit. He had a couple of really, really tough fights in his last few. So good to see him, wrap it up and not take the punishment anymore. He's a veteran of the sport. He doesn't need to prove anymore.
Yeah, he's been in some real great scraps.
So let's move ahead. This is going to be co-main event. We have a welterweight bout. Gunnar Nelson is going to be fighting Ellen Juban.
Yeah, and Jabran's a lot of people's heroes now. He beat Mike Perry, the UFC's resident douchebag, and a lot of people kind of remembered who Jabran was. And Jabran's a good fighter, man. He's got some good skills. Who beat him? Was it Tumanev? I think knocked him out.
Yeah.
And but I'm leaning towards Gunnar in this fight, man. He's got a karate background. Well, no, he's got jiu-jitsu background, but he's got a karate style striking approach, and he's got the jiu-jitsu to really put Jabouin in trouble. And I think Jabouin had a perfect fight for him last fight because he's got a guy that little head movement is gonna stand and plod in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Perry was pretty much the perfect opponent for Jabouin.
I like this fight. I really do. Both guys are very technically sound. Gunnar has really, really good jiu-jitsu. Alan Juban has pretty good technical striking. I'm excited to see how this one breaks down. Both young guys, up and comers in the division. Only have a couple of losses against some tough competition, and I think they really learned from those.
Dima, if you had to make an early prediction, who would you be leaning towards?
Alan Juban beat Mike Perry in his last one. Gunny is coming off of a loss against Maya. No, I'm sorry. He beat Albert Tumanov.
Yep.
By submission.
The guy that
Who
beat Jabouin
was the guy that beat Juban, like you said. So let's. I'm gonna go with MMA math here.
Yeah, and it's just not just MMA math. I feel like Gunnar's also been in there against the tougher competition, which does play a factor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Gunny.
Gunnar Nelson.
Gunny gets it done on home turf.
Seems like we've gone the same way with every fight so far. Who do you have in the Americani versus Allen?
Shoot, I don't know, dude.
That's a tough one.
That's
for me.
a tough one.
I don't think I had a prediction for that one. Maybe if we do one later in the week, we'll come up with a prediction.
And this is one of those where I might make a prediction later. Like if I watch the weigh-ins, I see how both of the guys handle the weight cut. Some of the things I tend to do if I want to bet money on it is to watch how the fighter is coming up throughout the week. See how they handle the weight cut. See how they look during the weigh-in. See the level of confidence. Look for little things.
Yeah, and I try to familiarize myself with the fighters. Like, say for example, that fight, I'm familiar with Makwan Amirkhani's game. I'm not as familiar with Arnold Allen. I know he's good.
So this would be a difficult. I probably would leave it alone. Would be the safe thing.
Or I would go research some of Arnold's fights and see how his game matches up against Amirkhani's.
Yeah, if you got time to do that, it's definitely encouraged. Research. So you want to take over and lead us into the main event of the night?
Yeah, main event. Not a fight that I imagined would be the main event, but we have Jimmy Manuwa, who, if I'm not mistaken, just recently came off that win versus OSP, knockout win.
Right.
Looks fantastic, and Corey Anderson put a string of wins together, so he's no longer beasting 25-8 though. What is it? All day, something like that.
I don't remember. I'm looking at a couple of guys' last performances. Mauricio Rua beat Corey Anderson in what was like somewhat controversial decision. Yeah, Corey Anderson.
It wasn't controversial, man. Corey Anderson beat Shogun, and they're like, "Oh fuck, we're in Brazil."
Yeah,
Shogun, you win.
Yeah, he did more to win that fight.
He beat Shogun. It was really stolen from him.
But Rua was competitive, which is why they gave it to him. That was a split decision bullshit. He does have wins over Sean O'Connell, beats him in TKO. He has got a couple of decision wins over Tom Lawler, Fabio Maldonado, Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah, Corey Anderson is definitely one of the most athletic light heavyweights. Jimmy Manuwa, he's really showing me that he's a serious fighter, man. He lost to Gustafsson, I think, way back, and since then it's just been steady progression of him getting better at applying his real unique style of strong striking and staying off the ground. And I think he's gonna give Corey Anderson a lot of problems.
He did lose to Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson knocked him out.
That's the guy, yeah.
That was his second defeat. But he loses to guys that are at the top of the division. Everyone else he fought, he, made a clean work of him. He has a lot of stoppages on his
KO,
record.
Yeah, he's
got, KO, TKO, KO, TKO. I'm just going down the...
He's got a lot of power. He's a finisher, and Corey Anderson is more of a grinder.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting style matchup.
Yeah, Manuwa's got some good hands. Like, he's really clean.
Manuwa's becoming a little bit of a scary guy. I'm going to be leaning towards him in this main event.
Yeah, I think I agree with you here. I think he has crisper hands, good boxing. Corey Anderson is one of those guys that's not particularly good at anything, but he's able to wrestle, he's able to strike.
Supreme athlete.
He mixes it up.
Supreme athlete.
I don't want to say athletic guy. Like a lot of people like to say that about black fighters, but because they look physically imposing.
Well, no, what I mean by that is when he shoots for the takedown. First of all, his wrestling is
he's a wrestler,
collegiate level,
for sure.
High collegiate level. And he shoots the takedown a lot quicker than most guys at light heavyweight. So he's got a quick shot, and he's, everything he does. He throws a quick jab. I don't like how often he throws the jab. I don't like how labored his striking looks. He looks a little bit stiff in the striking, but it's still quick and athletic, fast, even though it's labored.
True. So if he is able to use his wrestling, which is where his strong suit is, he might cause some problems. However, caliber of competition, looking at both guys' records, I have to favor Manuwa a little bit. As I said before, I think his hands are dangerous, and if he's able to neglect the wrestling of Corey Anderson, I think he can walk away with another stoppage here.
Yeah, mind you, Corey Anderson's gotten a lot better since he fought filthy Tom Lawler, but Tom Lawler had Corey Anderson hurt 2-3 times in that fight, and I think if Manuwa gets him hurt like that, he's not going to let him off the hook.
And some people might overlook Corey. I think he wins. Did he win tough?
He did.
Yeah, so he might be coming in as a bit of a dark horse.
And he beats 25-8.
Who?
That used to be his nickname.
Oh, geez.
Beast in 25-8, and then he changed it because people weren't taking it seriously. What he changed it to?
I wonder why. God damn.
I think he changed it to all day. Let me double check here.
No,
excuse me. Now instead of 25-8, because 25-8, what does that mean? It means overtime,
son.
So that's his new nickname. He's Overtime. Corey Overtime Anderson.
Okay.
And I remember him talking about he changed it because he didn't think people took him seriously as 25-8. I think he's right. It sounded like a little kid, if you come up with a wrestling name, oh, it's Genya, backyard wrestler, 25-8. If you were on the mic and you're giving yourself a name. But man, what an episode, man. That was cool.
Yeah, man. This might not be the most exciting one coming up here, but we are coming off of a very exciting card. And yeah, man, there was some awesome fights. Glad we were able to talk about these fights with you guys. We're happy to shoot the ones with you always.
Yeah, man, it's been a real blast. Thanks for all our listeners. If you guys have feedback on this episode or just anything on how we can get better, we'd appreciate it. You want to go over some of the platforms that they can find us on?
I'll get into it as we are fading out with the intro. But I do want to say this is a live show. We do we do a lot of things as we go, and we do make mistakes as far as like looking at records. And so if you guys hear anything that you want to correct us on, I encourage you to hit us up. Our platforms are SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher. MMApodcast.com is a website that features lots of premium MMA podcasts and has cool content.
Excellent points, Dema. We're always looking to get better, and feedback from you guys definitely helps. We have a nice little following, but we can always get bigger, and we look forward to shooting the ones with more people in the future.
Yeah, man. Looking to improve in however small of capacity. This Ep.7, we got 2 microphones now, so we hopefully we are able to sound more clearer, and the
we
production.
We can look at each other.
Yeah, we can look at each other, have more of a conversation. That's a plus.
It's neat.
Instead of sitting side to side like in a trench, like some soldiers, like we have been for the last 6 episodes.
It helps the conversational style.
Yeah, man. And you can look into my pretty eyes and be inspired.
Well, thanks for shooting the ones with us, guys.
For sure. Thank you for listening. Catch us on the platforms we already mentioned.
Dema and Genya out.